How's it, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Tourism Talks podcast. Today we are talking to Jonathan, aka Jono. Now, currently working at Bloukrans Bungee jumping, and he's worked all over the world, not just South Africa. He has done white river rafting over in Norway, of all places. So he's got quite a bit of experience, and we'll find out a bit more about him. How's it, everyone? Welcome aboard on our podcast. We're going to be chatting over here to this gentleman on hopefully my left. Tell us a bit more about yourself, your name, and where you're from, and where you're at the moment.
Sure, okay. My name's Jonathan. Everyone calls me Jono. Currently living in Plettenberg Bay. Originally from Cape Town, but I've kind of lived all over the show, including Ibiza, Spain, England, Norway, short stints up in Zambia, and then for a long period lived on an overland truck driving through Southern Africa. But yeah, currently called Plet home.
So, just listening to what you just said, you've basically been living the full-on tour guide life, like not having a fixed place to stay. You've been all over the show.
Yeah, so as I say, for a short period, I basically lived on the overland trucks. That was for just off a year. And I didn't have a fixed location. So when I wasn't on tour, which was very seldom, I would stay in a backpackers, either in Cape Town or Johannesburg, waiting for the next tour. Then between that, I lived in Joburg for a long time, so I did have a base there, but I was running international expeditions. I actually ran the operations for a company in South Africa, so my day-to-day work was running the operations for the company, and then I used to do 3 to 4 trips a year overseas guiding for them, and that could be anywhere from 16 to 21-day trips. And then in lockdown, obviously the company closed, so that all went out the window, and then I went and lived on a game farm.
Oh, nice.
The idea was to kind of try and convert the game farm from what was a hunting lodge to a upmarket conservation-based lodge. So there was a Swedish investor buying the hunting lodge, and we were going up there to turn it around. So I spent 6 months there working on sort of doing a bit of anti-poaching, fixing up fencing, starting to work with the animals. And then that whole deal fell through, unfortunately. And then so I went back to Joburg and then jumped on a plane to Norway and spent a fair amount of the end of lockdown in Norway guiding whitewater rafting trips and canyoneering trips in Norway. The end of that, when lockdown eased, I came back to Johannesburg and then we moved down to Cape.
That's awesome, man. So yeah, that's crazy. So if you see me writing down stuff, it's not that I'm not listening. I'm just, so I have the tendency to, as soon as I hear something interesting, I want to interrupt and ask you about it. So I'm writing down highlights that I want to ask you during the course. So it's just my way of being more aware of me chipping in, taking over the show. Okay, Norway, first of all. Awesome, dude. I love Norway. I've never been myself. I've worked with a Norwegian volunteer before. She showed me everything. She told me like everything about their schools and stuff, and I really fell in love with the place. Now, I just mentioned before we went live that our goal is to go to New Zealand, but Norway was like a close second, third spot there for me. It is really a nice place. How did you experience it? Did you get to see the Northern Lights there? Um, what was your main differences between there and South Africa for you, actually?
So Norway, it was interesting. I didn't get to see the Northern Lights, unfortunately. I was there just during the summer season, and I missed home. I wanted to come back. I should have stayed a bit longer.
Oh,
But no, I
awesome.
missed the Northern Lights as a result of that.
So you had like full
But
daytime,
amazing
basically.
country. You know, everyone, yeah, 24 hours of daylight.
That's
When I
crazy.
first arrived, it was 24 hours of daylight. By the time I left, it was getting light. It was getting dark at about 10 o'clock at night, 10 and about 4:35 in the morning. So not a
Hectic.
lot of darkness anyway.
Yeah, and then in the winter it's exactly the opposite, where you've got like full on nighttime.
But yeah, get back to the question about how it works.
Oh, sorry, there's just a delay. So there's a bit of a delay between us speaking. So yeah, but you can carry on. What was your back to the question?
Okay. But yeah, no, very different. So winter it is, it's pretty much dark. Yeah, so I was saying winter it is pretty much dark. The big differences between Norway and South Africa, I mean, there's so many. Um, I think, all Norwegians speak Norwegian, but they all speak English as well, and they speak really well. The, you know, Unfortunately, we have got a huge amount of poverty in this country, and with that comes crime. Norway, they seem to have kind of got a social structure where there isn't a huge amount of poverty, and as a result, there's very little crime. And coming straight out of Johannesburg, which is a very big city, and going into a very, very small village, Otta, in Norway, was quite surprising, where you could leave your bicycle outside a shop, not chain it up, and spend the whole day shopping and come back 4 or 5 hours, 6 hours later, and the bicycle would still be there. Um, and not even South Africa. I don't know very many countries around the world where you can leave a perfectly good bicycle outside a shop and not chain it up and it would still be there 6 hours later. That's kind of unheard of around the world these days. So that was a big shock. Um, Prices are very high. Food and particularly beers and things like that are very pricey compared to here. But they also have massive sales. So if food is kind of reaching its sell by date, they discounted up to about 70%. So
Yeah.
there's very little food wastage that goes on, which is also quite incredible.
No, that's amazing. So you mentioned the expensiveness of food, and the my volunteer explained to me that so because their taxes are super high, but that is why everything works there because you pay taxes, but you see where the taxes go through. They've got good infrastructure, good healthcare, good schooling. She said her workaround was when they did big shopping, like once a month big shopping, they went across the border, they took a train to the next country, did shopping there because everything's cheaper, and then come back to Norway and then like just buy the basics throughout the months.
Yeah, I think that's most of the Norwegian families, if they're close enough to the border, do that.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's interesting how you know how there's a workaround for things, and in South Africa to avoid taxes, you're like, okay, we'll put a bit of the cash underneath the pillow, or under the mattress, and over there they're like, no, we'll just go across country. We go to the next country and go buy over there.
Yeah,
All right.
it is interesting. Though.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the thing is that I've experienced in my years of guiding is things that there's such a difference in variety in people, in habits, and things that we do that things that we might consider bad manners here would be perfectly normal in another country or to another race or another ethnicity. Like it could be just normal for them, and we like no, but that's the guy's actually being rude or impolite. Meanwhile, he's actually being polite, or it's not frowned upon where they're from. So you really in tourism have to think before you act or say, um, because you never know what that guy's traditions is back home. All right. So your game farm, I don't want the name specifically, but whereabouts was the game farm and which province at least?
Limpopo.
Limpopo. Okay, so that was up north. You probably had some rhinos there, right?
Yep.
That's kind of why I don't want the name be mentioned. So that's awesome. And you said you did some anti-poaching. That's crazy, man. I wanted to do down here in the Western Cape. We've got at Ferry Glen. There's an anti-poaching course. So just after school, okay, when I was 16, I started volunteering at a game lodge. Um, and I started doing horse safaris because I didn't have a license. So I did horse safaris for them even before I finished school. And then my brain was just like anti-poaching. I just wanted to do that anti-poaching course. But at that time, I didn't have the financial backing for it. because it was quite expensive. But that's something I want to get into. All right. Um, the Did you do any courses for tourism?
So yes, for tourism, I did. I actually didn't do anything in anti-poaching. That kind of I fell into as part of my role on the game farm, trying to get it established and turn it all around. So I never did any of the anti-poaching courses. They were also, something I always looked at and dreamed about doing, but just the cost
Definitely.
wasn't that at the time. But the courses I have done in the guiding sphere, so I've done my field guide course. Two ways to do it. One is through for Gaza. The other way is just a CETA qualification, so it's a nature guide qualification. I didn't do it through for Gaza. I did it through Artspark
Oh,
Guide
nice.
Training School in Swartberg. Um, Johan Faree ran it at the time, so I did my nature guide course there. And then from there, I did my raft guide qualification, which was APA, African Paddle Association raft guide qualification. Then I did a advanced mountaineer off trail overnight, which was an incredible course. I did that through Venture Forth, and I did my wild medics course through them at the same time. And then a bit further down the line, I did an IRF, International Raft Federation trip leader qualification, and that's for whitewater, but it's rather than going to APA, which is South African based, it's through the International Raft Federation, so it's an internationally accepted qualification. And with that, and then separate to that, I've also done a number of swiftwater rescue courses.
No, that sounds awesome, man. I know Johan as well. I did my course. I did my Fagasa level back then. It was 4, but I did my level 2 through him. So really nice. And I didn't go to the Aardvark College itself. It was quite expensive back then. I think it was 110,000 rand. For it's a 1 year course, 6 month theory and 6 months practical, where you get assigned to a lodge, and then you work at the lodge for below minimum wage. I know some of the other students that came to us, they got, well, I mean, me as well. Before I had my qualification, I got after school my first job, 2,200 bucks a month was your income. And then after that, your income got bumped. So I got my qualification, and I got about like 4,400 ish. And then it slowly climbed. I worked my way into the head guide position for the horse division, because I grew up on a horse farm, so it was kind of why they got me in. I wouldn't say I worked my way in. It's just the reason they assigned me. And then it went up to about 5.5K, which back then was really decent considering I knew what most of the other guides got. So what I want to talk about is the price of these courses compared to the reward, right? Because there's a there's a big cost involved in taking some of these courses, like for instance this field guiding course. Now, just to mention, I did not go and do the full course. I told them, like, listen, I've been doing field guiding since I was a kid. Um, can't they just have me write the exams? So I was able to do a assessment. They came out, gave me the exams that their students take, and they did an assessment. Johan got in the vehicle with me, took a drive. I did a full safari with him, explained anything from geology to plants to animals to birds, whatever. It asked me some questions, and that's how I got my qualification. And it cost me, I think, 4.5 grand total for everything. So 4.5 grand versus 110 grand. But the 110, remember, they feed you for 6 months. They look after you. They take you on like epic courses. They do extra like birding courses, herpetology courses, plant courses. So there's a lot of excess work that they do, and they had a lot of extra smaller certificates that I never got. But I must also say that people that come from not just aardvark, I'm not talking about them, I'm talking about guiding courses in general. You often get these little city slickers that know nothing about the bush. They didn't grow up in the bush. They do the course and then they think they know everything. And they get to the lodge and it's actually just a joke about they've got this certificate, but they actually don't know squat. And I don't know if you've experienced that. So that's the one question. Have you experienced similar things like that? And then the other thing is, um, investment versus reward your salary in the end. Because to me, in my opinion, as just a standard field guide on a lodge, I would not be able to sustain a family. Um, Never to mention the hours that you have to put in for that lodge, and you don't have time for your family. But I mean, what's your experiences there?
So yeah, look, it's a difficult one. Let's quickly get to the first question: is experiencing people who have done a course and then are really quite clueless when they get out there. Unfortunately, that is a big reality. It happens a lot. And there's nothing like experience.
No.
Unfortunately, you've got to get that course to legally operate, but experience is, nothing can beat experience. So, these new guys have to come in to the industry. They have to gain the experience. It's the only way for them to become good guides. And as a guide, it's important that you uplift, you help, and you encourage new guides to get the experience. Otherwise, you're just going to have terrible guides, which is bad for the whole industry.
Yes.
That's my take on that side. The cost versus reward, it's a very big grudge of mine, unfortunately. And it's something that currently is happening in the background of tourism in South Africa, both with Department of Tourism, SATSA, and SAAIA. All three of them are busy working on and looking at the guiding industry and changing how you become a qualified guide. And I think it's really great that they are looking at it, because there are a couple of stumbling blocks. The one is, like your first question, they get qualified, they come into the industry with a piece of paper, but no real world experience. And that is a bit of a problem. You want your guys to have real world experience, to be able to give you the best possible experience, and to make sure you stay safe. So that's one of the kind of small issues that people are working on. And then the other really big part of it is the cost of these courses. It's amazing to go on these courses. They are incredible courses. You gain a lot from them. But the cost is incredibly high. There are not a lot of people who can afford to take a year off life and pay 110,000 Rand to go do a year-long Gaza training course. So it's currently in South Africa, particularly the really good guide courses, they are only for affluent youth. And I think that's a little bit sad, because actually guiding is something that can eradicate poverty and the lack of jobs we have in this country. There's so many kids that come from rural villages and towns and are living on the fringes of wildlife parks and game farms, and interacting with wildlife on a daily basis, who have got the ability to become brilliant guides just because of where they've grown up and how they've grown up. And they sadly don't have the opportunity to become guides because of the cost prohibits them getting that opportunity. And that is something that the country needs to look at, is because we really have got a big problem with youth unemployment. And one of the greatest areas we could encourage youth employment to occur is in the guiding arena. But again, because the cost of guiding courses is so high, and not just high, the courses aren't just incredibly expensive. They also, a lot of the courses are they require a lot of intellectual kind of work. So, to become an advanced mountain leader, you usually just need to do the mountain leader qualification. The way the South African structure is now, you have to do a generic adventure site guide as well, and then a specialized scope. And generic adventure site guide is an incredible course to do and qualification to get. It's the equivalent of a matric, but a lot of it doesn't deal with your day-to-day guide. And I don't feel it's 100% necessary all the time for your day-to-day guide to have the skill set that generic adventure site guide requires. And that's where I think, the guiding industry needs to be needs to be sorted out a little bit, is make it accessible for all people, and including the underprivileged, to become guides. yet at the same time, you want really strong criteria to make sure you're creating good guides who can manage people, give them the best experience of nature or the environment they're in, and keep them safe. So it's tricky, you know. To have a good course, it's expensive. To have good guides, they need to get experience. So yeah, it's sort of a catch-22 there at the moment.
That's the thing, and it's somewhere where I
And
was
then
very.
travel.
Sorry. No, it's somewhere where I was very fortunate. I started volunteering from a young age, so you'll know Lord Snake Sanctuary, Mike and Emily and them. As a young kid, I started volunteering at the Snake Sanctuary. I think it was back in 2004. Yeah, probably four. So I started volunteering weekends on them, starting off by just cleaning windows and raking, sweeping. That was my job. I didn't get to interact with the people. I didn't get to interact with snakes. My interaction with snakes was back then because I love snakes, reptiles, spiders, things like that. My interaction with snakes was I'm cleaning windows. I'm like, just like this is my favorite stuff ever. And then I started doing tours for them. Probably when I was about 14, I was able to do some of the Afrikaans tours for Mike and them because Mike and them were both English. So if I have Afrikaans people, I was allowed to do it from age 14 about. And then also we had our own tourism farm where we had backpackers and horse rides in the Nice forest. So I started off as backup guiding, and then at age 12, I had a full grown adult qualified guide as my backup, but I took lead and I did everything the lead guide is supposed to do at age 12 already. So that's where, like I said, I had the privilege for that. But I was also, even as a kid, hardworking. I didn't spend weekends doing nothing. I volunteered at these facilities, which is a way for someone with a background that doesn't have a lot of income. They can do that volunteering work, but that requires a lot of effort from your side. So it is a way for people to get into it. If anyone is interested, I highly recommend that course. The same with the game lodge. We moved to I don't know if I should give the place away. But I mean, we moved to this new facility, and I've started volunteering at this game lodge. First of all, as a caddy, driving a golf cart, picking up the people because I was about 16. But driving a little caddy, golf caddy, picking up the people, taking them down to the lodge, dropping off their luggage in their room, coming back, picking them up, taking them, and just checking them in, a basic chauffeur check-in. And I started with that and then slowly upgraded, going along with the other game rangers on their game drives. And then slowly, as they started trusting me, they allowed me to talk. So they had time free. They could just drive and look for animals, and I could talk to the clients. So yeah, there is avenues like that. But I want to get back to something you mentioned, and I fully agree. Where you get the poverty in South Africa, but a lot of these people grow up in an environment where they gain a lot of experience because they don't have a TV to sit indoors the whole time. So they're playing outside, and playing equals learning eventually because you're learning, look, there's a snake. What is it? It's going to bite me, blah, blah, blah. This plant I can eat, this plant I can't eat. So especially for field guides, you get a lot of field knowledge. And it's something that we've implemented at my company. I do Five Shy Meerkats as well. It's my tourism company here in Oudtshoorn. If you ever in the area, come join us. I'll invite you for a tour. So we take people out and show them the meerkats, all right? And then my dad's working on some other nocturnal life. I did it pre-COVID, but during COVID, same as you, I had to jump around, and I eventually ended up on a game farm. I started off as just a 6 months hunting contract. Now I'm not a hunter, but I'm a field guide. I know how to get close to the animals, and I don't have to shoot. The other guy has to shoot. So I told the owner that, and the guy that was gonna, uh, you know, take me in. I told him like, listen, I hunt. Like I know hunting. I'm not a hunting guide, but I know hunting, and I'm a field guide my whole life. I can do this. And the guy took a chance, and I'm very grateful for him, Bruce Abbott. And a really nice guy. His son hunted with me the first month, and I think the first 2 months we made our total income that they made the previous year in the hunting season, just in 2 months. So it was quite successful. And then after the third month, Bruce told me, "Do I want to take over the farm, the whole farm?" And they had pecans, olives, pomegranates, wine grapes. What am I missing? Lemons, and then 6,500 hectares of game farm, plus accommodation and so on. And at first I said no. I've got my own company. I'm waiting for COVID to come past. I wasn't keen because I've got a wife. My wife was back home. She didn't live on the farm with me. Like having a social life, especially a family, and guiding is hectic. And then he said, no, think about it. He'll make an offer. And then later on, he made a very good offer for me and my wife. He included my wife on the farm as well, gave her a salary as well. And we lived on the farm. It was epic. But long story short, anyways, I want to get back to my company. So we got the five-star Meckets, and we had a guy named Derek. Now he came from, we called it the Klip Lukasi, like the rock village, if you had to translate it. And he grew up in the bush. He knew a lot about plants. His English was terrible, which I thought would be off-putting to the clients. But even when I worked with Mike and them, the because we had some Babuan guides there, their English was decent, but they also didn't have like a very very big vocabulary. They claimed way more tips than I did, and I was always like trying to be professional, and I'll give it like a big word, like I'll say, oh, this animal is crepuscular, and this means
Yep.
he is active in the morning and the night, or mornings and evenings. And for some reason, like Wilmore and Albert and them, they just always got better tips than me. And the same with Derek. Derek, with his broken English, and that's kind of what a lot of the tourists want. You get some tourists that want prim and proper, but some of them, they really want this full on African experience. They come here, and um, I know this sounds funny, but I mean it with all respect. Mostly to us, if someone doesn't speak proper English, you think of them as stupid. All right, or if they speak English in a funny way, but it's often just an accent. We don't say like the French people sound, and this is a bit from Trevor Noah that I'm using, but like the French people, you're like, oh, that's a sexy accent. But South African, we have our own accent, and that's kind of what it is. So yeah, with your poor people and their experience, they actually end up making such great guides. And Derek was one of our best guides. We unfortunately had to let him go during COVID, but I 100% agree with the experience thing. And if it was easily accessible for these type of people, it would make the world of difference because tourism does not only advance tourism. Tourism advances everything in South Africa or any country, whichever it is. It does not just affect the tourism because some countries, I don't know what our GDP is for tourism, but it's massive. I think it's one of the biggest. That and our agriculture is the biggest in South Africa, but I'm not aware of the numbers specifically. I can Google it and I'll put it in. But yeah, so that that to me, what you said makes 100%, and I've gone off topic now. All right. At the moment, okay, you're working at Bloukrans Bungee, um, and it's epic. I've bungee jumped before. I'll include a video of that. It's a freaking amazing experience. You've been there for how long now?
So yeah, I've been at Bloukrans Bungee for about a year. Um, Known about the place for a long time. Kind of been involved in other aspects, linked to the owners, but never the bungee itself. And then yeah, took over as operations manager June last year. So almost a year now.
Awesome. All
And then
right.
on top of that, I run a small company, Wild Campus Experiences.
Just say that again. Sorry, it was quiet. Wild. Create
Yeah.
wild compass
Sorry,
experiences.
on top of the bungee, I also run a small company, Wild Campus Experiences. Yeah.
All right. I'll maybe have a link to that, and we'll include that as well, so people can go have a look. What is the goal of Wild Compass Experiences? What do you do?
So it's an interesting one. Wild Campus is kind of a concept that I'd had for quite a while, that I wanted to set up. And when I was in Johannesburg working for running international expeditions, I wanted to set this company up, but it was always on the back burner because I was just too busy. So, it ended up kind of, I organized trips and experiences and adventures for friends of mine only. Then in lockdown, with the international expeditions shutting off and, you know, being out in the bush and stuff, I sort of decided to officially start it as a company. The whole concept of Wild Compass was to get people outdoors in any manner we could. So whether it was having a picnic at your home that we come in and set up for you, or hike up to Gala Falls, whitewater rafting down the Orange River, or a 16-day overland safari through Africa. We would facilitate, customize the experience, and create it for you. Been running quite nicely in the background now for what I think we're on our third year now. And having moved to the garden route and working with the bungee jump, we kind of refining our product a little bit now from kind of doing anything to get you outdoors to being a little more highly focused. So we've got, some hiking. Well, we do hiking in Gauteng area as well as the garden route area. So we have guides that'll qualified mountain guides that take you hiking. We're looking at a little canoe safari thing that we're looking to set up in the near future. That's kind of busy happening in the background right now. It'll be ready hopefully by the end of the year. And then we also work with some of the other operators in the country to get people outdoors. So we work quite closely with Gravity to get people onto the Orange River, whitewater rafting.
Nice.
Work with another of other hiking guides around the country, so we can arrange hiking for you anywhere in the country. And then we've actually recently sent guides as far as Namibia to do guided hikes on the Fish River Canyon, and up in northern Namibia, guide a bunch of people from Botswana. So the idea with Wild Compass kind of will be focused around paddling and hiking related activities, but we can create bespoke itineraries and bespoke experiences for you.
The As far as I understand, the bungee jumping Bloukrans Bungee is family run, or it used to be. I don't know. Like I said, I knew Braden. Me and him used to surf together, and he was a super nice guy. Back then, him and his wife had their first child, so it was quite a while ago. But super nice guy, really freaking amazing to get to know them. What is the operations like at Bloukrans Bungee? Because it's a massive industry.
Yeah, look, it's an amazing company. So there are three directors that run Bloukrans Bungee. One of them was Braden's brother. He's the kind of majority shareholder. And there's another guy, Chris, and the general manager, Garth, also has shareholding. So the three of them are shareholders of Bloukrans Bungee. And yeah, most of the staff are from the local area. So predominantly Coldstream, which is a small kind of village not far from here. Good couple from Storms River Village, and then some from Curlin or
Oh,
Crag.
nice. Yeah.
So they're all kind of from the local area. Great bunch of guys. All of them very eager to get involved in tourism, and have ended up there. And then, yeah, as an operation, I mean, it's massive. There's never a day that there isn't a lot of work to do. We've got 100% safety record at the bungee, and we spend 100% of our time making sure we keep it that way. So regular maintenance, regular checks on equipment, changing equipment regularly, and then constant development, and seeing how we can be better and do better. But yeah, amazing place. I mean, you get to watch people face it every single day of their lives, or of my life.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
it's been an amazing thing.
like I can vouch for the vibe there. If you go and you ready to jump in that waiting area, the music is pumping, the people there are dancing. It's such a vibe check. I mean, you don't even have to go jump down. Just being under that bridge in the waiting area with your staff, they are super happy. They are super, like, you can see this is like they're having the time of their life. They might as well be at a rave party, and I enjoy that. And all the while, yeah, all the while there's like the instructor that's hooking you up. He's like super safe. He runs you through all the checks. I mean that it makes you feel safe. And I've done it I think 3 times now. Loved it every time. Braden set me up with a jump before. I've done another jump also pro bono because we work in tourism. We just trade out activities. So that's something cool about tourism is if you work in tourism and you go to certain areas, you could what do we call it? It's not a freebie. It's a educational experience. Yeah. So that's always nice to have in the back pocket, but unfortunately, some people do abuse that, which is it's difficult to get around because I mean, with us, we have a lot of agents because well, you'll have the same, but we're experienced, and then the agents come and they want to experience what we have, but you see that agent there once and never again. And the bad part is for me is when they want to bring their family. So we have a policy where if you can come for free, I don't mind. Or if you're a first timer, you might pay like a heavily reduced rate, like a 20%, just to cover our input. Um, and then for if you're a long-term client of ours, we allow you to bring like a family member or two along with you. So it depends on how you have worked with us in the past, because we don't want someone to just come in and they, take advantage of us. Do you guys get stuff like that back at the bungee jumping?
Yeah, look, everyone wants to try their luck. So no, we do get a lot. In all reality, I mean, we've got pretty good relations with a lot of the tour companies that come through here. So, they will obviously get their 2 cents worth. And then the guides, if they're bringing in a fair amount of jumpers or they haven't jumped in a while, we invite them to go on and jump. The more guides that have jumped, the more they're kind of recommending the product and can explain to their guests what the experience is like. So, we do find it valuable within the educational. But like you said, we're a bit careful about just fishing them out because it can be abused.
Oh, definitely, and that's why I say we've got this whole like a setup. If you're a first timer, um, we we look at the situation, but it's generally just like a small payment from you. Like we don't make it, we actually still lose on it, but I mean the rest of the tour will cover the cost. It's not a issue, but it's just trying to avoid people that want to take advantage. And like I said, you build up obviously relationships with these people, and there's a lot of background work that goes into them and securing these relationships with them. So yeah, it's really nice, and like I know I've done educational with you guys, so I know you guys are super cool about it. Um, then the oh, I've got a question going back to your company though. So you mentioned a vast amount of areas. You went up to Pretoria. You've got the Orange River. I've never been on the Orange River myself. My brother went there. It was epic. He said they did like a school, the high school survival campy weird thing there. They enjoyed it thoroughly. And then you even mentioned Namibia, Botswana, and I love Namibia. Well, Namibia not that much, but Botswana, like up in the North Delta area, beautiful. Okavango, those places. So how do you get your guides? I mean, how do you get in communication with them? Is it through the grapevine or what?
So with Wild Compass, I mean, as I mentioned beforehand, I ran the operations for an international expedition company. So we had a pool of guides that were based in South Africa that I worked with quite regularly, both sending them on expeditions and making sure they had all the right criteria to be running these expeditions. So I had a pool from that, and then doing other freelance work for different companies, either as a river guide or a mountain guide or school trips, things like that. I also started getting a bit of, or creating friendship with other guides. So I've got a bit of a pool of guides that I've kind of kept the numbers of and things of who I've found are really good, highly qualified guides. And that's actually how I got it. So it's almost like working with my friends because it's all
Awesome.
top quality guys that I've worked with that we've enjoyed each other's time, and those are the guys I use to guide trips that I can't.
That's awesome. So, and this is going to bring me back to the previous discussion we had about the educationals and stuff as well. Is so you know them personally and basically word of mouth, right? And I'm pretty sure that is one of the biggest marketing tools we have in tourism is word of mouth. I mean, you worked with these guys, and what they'll do is then they'll vouch for you and they'll vouch for your company, and you can vouch for them and whatever they are taking on. And unfortunately, there's this whole it's not just tourism, it's human life is the competition aspect. I mean, we started the Meerkat company. Well, okay, we didn't start it. There was another person doing it, but they eventually got banned from doing it by the tourism board just because they were doing unethical things. All right, we'll leave it at that. So we had this gap in the market. The company or the place that they were doing the tours at, this previous owner, contacted us because we were in this area and we were already kind of working with meerkats. We were doing a bit of background research, maybe seeing if we could do something with them. And the owner of the property contacted us, said, "Listen, this gap just came in. Do you want to take it?" And I was still in school back then. My dad was obviously in charge, but me and my dad, like I said, I've worked from school days like all over. So initially, when we were doing the horse safaris, when we moved to Oudtshoorn, um, we it was just me and him, and I was in boarding school, so I was only here every other weekend, and that was the only times that he could get off. So when I was off from school back home, I ended up just working, doing the horse safaris, making sure the horses are fed, and all the basics, doing hooves and so on. And then that at that point he would then go and visit my mom and brother because my brother was finishing his last year in primary school, so we didn't want to pull him out, and also we weren't sure about the whole move to Oudtshoorn if everything was going to work out. So yeah, I was working full time with him basically. If it wasn't school, it was I was working with him, and if I wasn't working with him, if like long holidays, I was working at Lawn Snake Sanctuary. It was like the three places I'd go to. Um, any case, so yeah, we kind of built it up, and then we've started this meerkat company, and then some of the other places in Oudtshoorn also heard about this, and now they also want to do the meerkats because we were very successful at it. And there is now three companies in Oudtshoorn that all do meerkat tours. But back to the thing is the word of mouth. So we've been obviously doing it for a while. We've been working with these agents for a while, and most of them know that we are. I might not be the best with social media and things like that. I've got someone helping me with that now, though. But they know that when their clients come here, they have a great tour. And those clients will then go and talk to the place where they stay at, the accommodation, say, "Listen, we just had the best experience. It's like the best thing." And I don't know now after COVID, but we used to be the number one rated guided operation in Oudtshoorn area. Um, I'll have to go have a look. Like I said, these things don't bother me much as long as my clients are happy and I'm doing great tours and my staff is doing great tours. Then that's it. I don't care about the rankings and the TripAdvisor and stuff. But if there's something negative, you can work on it, right? So yeah, word of mouth, big thing, and that's why you allow these educationals. Um, Now, your work specifically at the bungee place, right?
Yes.
What does an operations manager do?
Wow. A little bit of everything. Um, yeah, it's a tricky one. So I am involved in staff roster. Um, I'm just kind of plugging my phone in, sorry, give me one second. Yeah, so I do all the hiring. So I interview staff and make sure we're hiring the right guys and the right candidates for the job. In charge of the training, so making sure that all the staff are trained and that they're not just trained, but they're excelling in their current position. They're starting to train for the next position. Because we actually have a multitude of positions here, and you've got to train your way up. So in charge of the training, writing up SOPs and risk assessments regularly, especially when changes are made. Looking at the system, looking at how we can make changes, make the system better, more efficient, safer, and always, there's a company, so we also got to keep an eye on the bottom line and make sure that we're not spending money or wasting money unnecessarily. And it's the maintenance of the property, maintenance of the system, the bridge, cord manufacture, stocking the container. So we've got a container with our, spare equipment that needs to be used on the bridge. So making sure that's stocked. And then logging, a hell of a lot of computer work and admin, logging. So every carabiner that goes down to the bridge, I need to log the serial number of the carabiner, the date of manufacture, the date we purchased it, the date it's sent onto the system, and then when it eventually comes off, the date it's been NC'd or non-conform. So that has to happen with basically everything that goes on that system. Every piece of rope, every carabiner, every harness, every nut, every bolt, everything is locked. And obviously maintaining the store with the correct amount, don't want too many carabiners, don't want too little. Carabiners are a little bit easier to manage, but things like harnesses and slings and rope, they've got lifespan.
Yeah.
If you've got an excess, they're going to sit in your storeroom and expire and never seen the light of day. If you've got too little, you're going to struggle to get stuff, especially since COVID. There's a big backlog on equipment. So harnesses can take up to 6 weeks to get new ones. Certain things take 3-4 months to get.
All right. No, it's so your job revolves a lot around the safety of the clients there. I mean, for those of you guys that know, carabiner is like a little clip, but kind of like a oval shape, and it just clips in and out, so you can clip your ropes through. You got one there. There we go. Just open it up so they can see. Oh, you've got the screw-ins, so the proper climbing ones. Yeah.
So that's a D-shaped screw gate. That's an oval-shaped screw gate, and then we have twist locks and all of that. Those two are NC gates.
Oh, those twist locks we use in climbing a lot. All right, no, that's awesome, man. Okay, so you're in charge of safety. If anything goes wrong, you're the man they're gonna come to. Okay, no, cool. Then let's see here. You said that you spent so you've been to Norway, all right? That's freaking, like I said, one of my top places that I'd like to go. Any places overseas that you would like to go to?
Cool. Yeah, there are quite a few. I think I'd really love to explore more of South America, particularly around the Amazon River, Amazon jungle. I think that would be just. It's such a rapidly declining environment. There's so much to offer, and I'd really just love to see it and paddle that river and be in that jungle. So yeah, the Amazon's kind of quite high up there. Recently, probably as a result of social media, Arizona, California are showing some amazing slot canyons and pretty epic places to go there. Yeah, I mean, I've been lucky enough to travel most of Southeast Asia, but I do love that part of the world. So anywhere there is always a blessing to go there. I've got quite a big yearning currently to actually go and visit Gabon.
Oh, beautiful.
And I were looking on before lockdown. We're looking at trying to get up to Gabon and look at tourism there because it's still quite untouched.
Yeah. Gabon, just so you guys don't know, it's up in West Africa, northwest, basically Africa on the coast, right?
Yeah.
Beautiful. I speak French there mostly.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, not a lot, a lot going on for it, but their tourism just hasn't been pushed that much. I think, they probably are looking at pushing their tourism now. But 3-4 years ago when we were looking at trying to go there wasn't a lot of tourism there. It was still very untouched.
No.
And it's a place you can still see, hippos. They call them the surfing hippos because the hippos actually going to the ocean. The lowland gorillas, they're amazing rivers, incredible jungle, beautiful waterfalls. I mean, there really is a lot going on in Gabon. So I'd love to get to Gabon, Angola. Yeah, I think anywhere I haven't been.
That's awesome. So you've been to way more places than I've been. If I go overseas, it used to be only for sporting events. That was just a cheap way for me to get overseas. And then obviously I never got to really experience the country. You were there at an event. England was okay. We did one extra week in England, which Lotto sponsored for us, which was very epic. But yeah, I'm 100% with you. Amazon, Amazon, Costa Rica, any of those, those jungle vibes, and then the Congo, I would like to do as well. That's also going to be epic, and then even India, but like the wild side of India, not New Delhi. No one wants to go to New Delhi, but the wild side of India, the jungles of India, would be epic. That's always my thing. And then my number one place as a kid, since I can remember, was Australia. I mean, I was a Steve Owen fan. I was like full on. I'm gonna work at the zoo. I'm gonna marry his daughter. That was my thing. Um, and it actually came up again now. Like, I never realized. I was like, no, I'll stay in Africa my whole life. Like, I love South Africa. But with a lot of the politic going on here now, and every country has its politic, obviously. You just got to choose which politics you can deal with, and I say that the same with people. Each person, no, nobody's perfect. Like your wife, not perfect. There's little peeves that you have about her, but you've got to find that person that you can deal with their whatever issues it is. You're comfortable with that, and that's the person you go to. So, um, me and my wife, we just got a son now. He's about 10 months old now, and we've decided to listen. We're gonna see how it is how the grass is on the other side. So Australia was first choice for me, but we just didn't make it. They don't. Tourism isn't a qualification that's needed that side. Tour guides and so on. So uh, New Zealand was the next best option for us, and they did take us. Luckily, they accepted us. So we are working towards that at the moment. But like I said, Norway was close up there for me for the next one, just because of the politics there, how it works there. I mean, you pay high taxes, but you see where it's going to. So that's just my reasonings for what I'm doing. All right. Now, we deal with a lot of, I call them the weird and wonderfuls, people that you meet and they, I wouldn't say impress you, but they do something so silly that you decided, like, this is impossible. No one can be this stupid or this something. So, I don't know if I'll give you some time. I'll tell about one of my stories and then I'll give you time to think of something if you've had an experience like that. So, with the meerkats, obviously, we've had, and this was actually my dad's experience, not my experience. But we had this lady back in 2012 from England, and it's weird that they're from England because in England they have got a big, what is it, like a marketing for insurance. Compare the meerkat, compare the market. All right, and if you sign up with this company, you get a little toy meerkat, and it's big, like everyone knows it. And this group of ladies came from England. One of them booked the meerkat tour as a surprise for the rest of them, and came on tour. And obviously, we start talking about meerkats before you see the meerkats. And this lady was on the edge of a chair, like really excited. And I mean, that's normal. People want to see these little cute little animals. But you've got it there as well. But you've got a smaller species. You've got one with red wings. We get the spider hunting wasp out here in the Karoo, and the ones we have is quite big, like freaking massive, with blue wings, and you can hear them flying. And the temperature was rising. We said, listen, the meerkats will be climbing out of their burrows anytime soon. Get ready. And it's not 2 minutes later, the spider hunting wasp flies and comes past us, and this lady jumps out of her chair yelling, "Oh goody, they're coming! I can hear their wings flapping." And at that point, we realized that this lady had no idea what a meerkat was. And in our mind, you could just see these little meerkats flying and landing, doing a little show, and then flying off again. So the rest of the tour is a joke. You can't look at this lady without laughing, and it's not it's not being rude to her. It was just everyone laughed. She laughed. It was such a nice experience, but it makes you realize how little some other countries do know about us. I don't know if you've ever had some weird experiences like that.
I've had a hell of a lot of weird experiences. Now that I'm on the spot, I can't think of any of it, to be honest. Like some of the ones that a lot of people have had is, I've had clients about to get on the river and they ask if, the river trip ends at the same place. So in other words, the river's a circle.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, don't get that they're going down a river and they're going to end somewhere else. that I get quite often actually. It's
But see,
strange
that's
one.
something I've never heard of that. It's not my industry, so that's cool. Like even though it's common for you, for me that's worked in tourism my whole life, it's something brand new. So I love that. It's cool. I've never thought about someone thinking about that. So yeah. All right. No, that's awesome. Okay, no, we can get back to that later if we have to. All right. So currently you're working at the Bungee place. You're running your own company. You seem like you are quite like a hardworking person. I mean, you're doing a lot of extra stuff. But in the end, what would you consider like your ideal job? Like, where do you want to end up at?
My look, so a bit like you, I've also recently had a son. Uh, he's 6
Congratulations.
months. Um, thank you. But yeah, I think that's created a big change or shift in me mentally, where I want more time with him. I've seen how valuable my time is. Well, my time is now more valuable than it was, and I want more time to watch my son grow, to experience things with him, and actually to get him out into all these places I keep taking clients to. I want to take him into the mountains. I want to teach him how to whitewater kayak, how to run a raft down a big rapid. So all the things I'm doing for a living and taking clients on are things I cannot wait to experience with my son. But I do want slight bit more free time in my life to be able to watch him grow and be there and be a father. Um, so yeah, the time side is one thing. Financial security, COVID was hard, and you know, I realized that even though I had a small amount of savings, I didn't have enough savings to get me through the 6 months of COVID. So financial security has also, as a result of COVID and recent times, become more of a concern for me than it ever was. And then owning a company has also been a bit of a game changer for me. When we started Wild Compass, it was because it was a passion, and it was a passion that needed to come into reality because it was a passion in the background. Now, because of lockdown and having no work, I had to put it into practice. But as the company has grown and is continuing to grow, more and more of my time is taken away from doing what I'm passionate about, which is guiding and being out there, experiencing nature with people. And a lot has gone into the back end of, finding guides, training guides, dealing with insurance companies, dealing with travel operators, website design, social media, all the back end admin stuff. And I think we're most likely eventually get to at some point would be to have financial security, a fair amount of free time to enjoy with my son, and be able to still find myself on trips, guiding clients, and being out there experiencing the world with them.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I just wrote it down now, but it seems the higher up you go in tourism, I mean, like if you take a standard job, for instance, you start off as let's say an intern, and then you go up, you become one of the regular staff, and then you go up, you're one of the managing staff of a certain division, and then you go up as a general manager, and then the higher up you go in tourism, the less you actually do tours. I don't know if you experience it similar.
Yeah, 100%. As the operations manager here now, I don't interact with the clients a huge amount.
Yeah, and it's kind of why you want to get into it, but also the income that you want to generate income to obviously sustain you and your family. You need to do these extra things. So it's kind of like a catch-22. Which way do you go?
No, exactly. And unfortunately, guiding nowhere in the world is paid incredibly well. But in this country, yeah, guides, a lot of companies pay guides the minimum they can get away with, which is unfortunate. So it's expensive to become a guide, but you don't make a lot of money as a guide.
And that is one of the reasons why, if you find a guide that's been guiding for a long while, they're not in it for the money. They're there because of the passion. They enjoy it, and it's so clear to see that in our industry is because you don't do it for the money. Unfortunately, you unless you really own companies and manage companies and do a lot of extra stuff on the side. I'm sorry, you're not going to get rich. It's not the industry for you. You do it because you love it. And then one last thing. So I know, well, you mentioned it already, but I want to broaden out a bit. Is this social life? All right. So as a guide, it depends on which industry. And at the moment, you are at the bungee, Bloukrans Bungee, and I know for a fact you guys, well, you might have some extra work on the side, but for the most part, it's a standard 9 to 5 job, basically, or 9 to 6. I don't know what your hours are, 8 to 6 or whatever. But some guides, and you've done it, you've done overlanding, right? So then you're away for, it depends on the experience, but anywhere from 11 days to like 2 months, some of these safaris go into when you're going up into Tanzania and so on. Um, how has being a guide affected you and I want to say social life, but not your social life, your love life? I mean, you you obviously might have a girlfriend back in the day, or even if you have a wife, how does it affect your relationship with your partner?
It's tough, eh? I mean, I'm very lucky now. My partner is very understanding, and she got into the relationship knowing what I do and understanding that, I'm away a lot. So it's worked well. And then also, to be very honest, I haven't been away as much as I have in the past because I have a full-time job now with the Bungee. So as you said, it's a bit more of a 9 to 5, a little bit different. I mean, I start to leave home at 7:30, I get home at about 7.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's more of a 9 to 5 style job than previously. Running international expeditions, my partner at the time then didn't seem to mind. Um, she was quite encouraging, but it was hard. It was hard being away from the person I love and the person I want to spend time with. And because they were international expeditions and a lot of the time in very rural locations, we couldn't communicate regularly to do that. It makes it a little bit easier if you can drop a WhatsApp once a day or twice a day, have a quick phone call here and there. But these expeditions were quite rural, so they were really tough on the relationship. And the relationship actually ended up, she found someone else who could be there for her more than I could. So that was sad. Previous to that, running overland trucks and stuff, I was very young. So my relationships weren't really as serious. I did have one that lasted a fair amount of time through the overlanding, but it was very difficult. There was a lot of jealousy from her side, things like that. And then, to be honest, being single on the overland trucks was great. You interacted with the clients, partied with the clients, and then you'd have another trip, another trip. So in the beginning, I was great, single, and just chat to everyone and all the rest. And over time, you kind of realize that, as amazing as it is creating these new connections and meeting new people, it's also really nice having old friends and people that aren't changing all the time. Having that kind of grounded old good friend that you can go to with your problems rather than just everything being superficial. So yeah, you kind of you're living a great life, meeting new people and interacting with people probably in the best way possible because they're happy, they're on holiday, they're experiencing something new, they trust you. There are all these great ways of experiencing that person. But what I found important is to maintain consistent communication and interaction with my friends and the people I'm in love with and my family. When I was younger in tourism, I did neglect those things. And I was just living on the high of meeting new people. And it takes its toll over time. And you start realizing, that you need those important figures in your life.
No, that's kind of the answer I was not hoping for, but that's kind of what we want to get out there. Sorry. Yeah. Your image was frozen, but your voice still came through. But yeah, that's kind of the answer that, like I said, I was expecting, and it is really hard to make these things work. It requires extra effort from both partners' side. I mean, just as an example, when I was doing the hunting, like I said, I was away from my wife, and we'd already had our house, we'd lived together, everything, and now all of a sudden I'm not there for most part of every week, and me as a guide, to me, my client's happiness and enjoyment of the experience that they're on is everything. So I would not, in front of my client, be on my phone. It doesn't happen unless I'm making a phone call to call in, I don't know, like something to benefit them, you know. So what I did back then is, because we had a little outdoor shower at nighttime when we're sitting around the fire, and we're chatting to the each other, and you know, just chatting about the day or planning tomorrow's hunt. Then what I'd do is I'd say, okay guys, I'm just quickly going to go hop in the shower, I'll be right back. And then I'd video call my wife in the shower. So I'll be like, put the thing there, and while I'm showering I can chat to her. And that's kind of a way you make time for your partner. And it's, like you said, it's a lot of work to eventually make it happen. And I'm fortunate my at that point she was just my fiance, but I mean, turned out to be my wife, and we stuck through it and eventually came out the other side. And it does test the boundaries, or the strength of the relationship, but I mean, it helps out in the end. I appreciate her for it. All right. I think that's it. I mean, there's loads more that I can talk to you guys. You've been super interesting, and your experiences. I mean, you had loads of experiences, so we might have to do it again sometime. But for the duration of the podcast, we try and do like an hour session. So yeah, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it, Jono, and best of luck to everything you're gonna take on. In freaking hell, like I said. Send me your images. I want some images of some of your tours that you've done. I'll put them in the podcast. Send me a link to your company, and I'll add that as well. Bloukrans, I'll add automatically. And everyone knows Bloukrans. They do beautiful marketing. So yeah, awesome. Any last words from your side?
No, look, I just want to say thank you to you. Greatly appreciate it, and hopefully we can do another one soon. And to anyone out there who's wanting to get into guiding, it is one of the truly most special and rewarding industries to work in. You have the ability to change people's lives every single day through the way you interact with them. Whether you take them on a city tour, into the mountains, out on a hunt, or down to a bridge to jump, your interaction with that person can change everything in their life. So go out there, become guides, be the best guide you can, and remember that you have the ability to change people. So do it in a positive way, and make positive changes to the world.
No, 100%. That's like the easiest thing I can tell, like my staff or fellow guides, is if you want to do a good tour, be happy. Like, I know it's hard. It's like, oh, be happy, but the more you smile, the more effort you put in, you can see it reflect in your clients immediately. So yeah, I love the advice you gave. So thank you very much. All right, Jono, have a lekker one. I'll speak to you soon. All right, everybody, that was it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Big thank you to Jono for him taking time out of his daily schedule to have a chat with us. And if you guys did enjoy that, please like, subscribe. I mean, it helps the channel a lot. And if you have any recommendations or people that you'd like me to speak to, send me an email at tourismtalkspodcast@gmail.com, and we'll look into it. See you around.